January 24th, 1991, I was arrested. I was arrested and falsely charged for a murder I didn't commit. I was eventually tried as an adult, and I faced a jury trial. The first one hung, and the second one, they came back with a guilty verdict.
So Franky went to prison, but immediately started advocating for himself, writing letters to people, trying to get documents, and also really making himself into a really incredible person. He went in at 16 years old, but rather than let prison form him, he really turned himself into this intelligent, thoughtful, caring young man who did things like translate books into Braille for blind people and draw pictures and send money home to help support his family. And in the process, managed to convince people within the prison that he was innocent. And actually, that was how the case came to NCIP and Morrison and Forrester. A teacher from the prison had actually met Ellen Eggers, an attorney who really was one of the driving forces behind this case, and asked her to look at the file, and she did.
I was a state public defender, and I was a government employee, and we can't take private cases, but I took a day off work and went out and visited with him. I probably spent a couple hours with him, but I walked away just completely convinced that this man was innocent.
I met Ellen about 15 years into my incarceration, and I was at a point in my life where I thought about giving up a few times. I attempted my own writs and getting the court's attention, which failed. I was still constantly trying to reach out to anyone to sort of hear me and help me. And then an actual person showed up. And I can still remember very vividly an attorney. So not just any person who just wants to just sympathize with me and hear my story, but here was someone who can actually help me.
I remember my heart pounding and just almost hyperventilating, running back to my office and saying to my boss, "You've got to let me take this case. You've got to let, this guy's innocent. I know he's innocent." He said, "No, you're gonna have to find some private attorneys to take the case."
And she brought the case to NCIP and Morrison and Forrester, and we started our investigation.
When we first started, it was really about reinvestigating the case on two sides. It was about reinvestigating the eyewitness IDs and about reinvestigating some evidence that had come out at time of sentencing that two other men had confessed to the crime.
Thanks to Morrison and Forrester, we were able to hire investigators who overturned every stone and really found the evidence that Franky was innocent and that these eyewitnesses hadn't really seen anything, and able to hire experts who recreated the whole crime scene and actually proved with scientific evidence that nobody could have seen what they claimed to have seen at the time.
The court finds that the petitioner has sustained the burden on that issue by a preponderance of the evidence. Accordingly, the petition is granted. The conviction of petitioner Francisco Carrillo Jr. is set aside and judgment is vacated.
This is the case that you go to law school to do, to see your client, walk out of that jail, be free after 20 years of wrongful imprisonment. I mean, nothing could be, more gratifying.
Franky went from 16 to 37 in prison. I don't think I've ever seen someone who has spent, especially those kinds of years, locked away from society, and yet he was able to walk into society as if he was never in prison.
I left one institution and walked right into another one, which was a university. I'm a junior at Loyola Marymount University, so I've been doing that. Fell in love, have a family, have a baby, and have a home and a dog. And it seems kind of weird to sort of point these things out because they seem so mundane now. What's the big deal about these things? But as of 4 years ago, I was locked away, so doing none of that. So.